Some say a brisket cooked on an offset smoker is the best brisket you'll ever have. But what if we ran our Kamado Joe just like a backyard offset? Hey, I'm James from Smoking Dad Barbecue, and if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I've changed more about how I cook my briskets in the last 12 months than I have in the 10 years leading up to now. And the reason that I've done that is I've stopped trying to do what's right for other pit masters and other grills. Instead, I've started focusing on what really will make the Kamado style grill sing. And so I relate this a little bit to if you're trying to parallel park a car and you watch how to dock a boat video, it's not really going to be that helpful. Sure, there's a steering wheel, forward and reverse, but in practice these all come together completely differently. And so while their advice may be spot on if you're using the exact same grill, it doesn't carry forward and translate as well to some different types of grills like the Kamado Joe. And once I put this behind me and started experimenting with what the Kamado wants, the results have been amazing. And it's not just me saying it's amazing. You guys have let me know in the comments below my double indirect video and a couple others where I developed a method using both the slow roller and the heat deflector plates. And the punchline here, if you haven't seen that video, is this is encouraging clean burning smoke. So we're getting away with a hotter fire burning nice clean smoke, and we're adding some protection of using both forms of indirect cooking with those heat deflector plates. Manufacturer's suggestion here is to use either or, but combining them both I found really allows us to pull off the best of both worlds in a Kamado style grill. And I've been completely blown away with the results. But I got thinking, a week or so ago, I cooked a tomahawk on my solo stove, which is my backyard smokeless fire pit, and I was blown away at the quality of that steak cook. It's not, number one, number two, but it definitely makes the top 10 steaks I've ever done. And for the first try on a solo stove, this is a pretty remarkable result. And so this got me thinking, why would that happen? So A, we have clean burning smoke in a smokeless pit, so we're getting nice clean blue smoke all the time, and just letting natural fire do its wonder. And this is really what an offset has. It's clean blue smoke all the time, and I couldn't help but try and imagine a world where I could do this inside of my Kamado Joe. And so that's what we're going to do today. Instead of charcoal, we're setting that aside. I picked up a bag of oak wood chunks, and we're going to run them just like little splits and feed our Kamado Joe as if we were using an offset smoker all day, and power this by wood and see if we can get some of the same sweet smoke results that we got in some of our other experiments. Let me bring you nice and close, show you how I set up the grill earlier this morning for today's Texas style smoked brisket on the Kamado Joe like an offset. So the first challenge to overcome is just logistics. When I filled up my Big Joe with some charcoal, I was curious last year just how long it would go. Spoiler alert, if you didn't see that video, it ran for 56 hours. It can be incredibly efficient once it's heat soaked and just able to hold those low and slow temperatures. With wood, we're not going to get that, because if I filled it with wood and started a fire, we would have really uncontrolled high temperatures, and I don't want that. So the game plan is just to be adding 2-3 chunks at a time and try and hold a fairly, kind of moderate between low and slow and hot and fast temperature of around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. But to do that, I'm going to need access to the firebox area at all times. And so the game plan that I've come up with to pull off today's cook is I'm going to try a different take on the double indirect method, and I'm going to load my splits towards the back. I've got just a few leftover charcoal pieces of ash there that I'm going to use for a bit of a bed just to help accelerate the process of building my coal bed. Lay in my wood splits and blast them with my grill blaze or grill torch in order to get nice clean combustion quickly. Then on top of this, I'm going to drop the Kamado Joe heat deflector plate, and above that I'm going to put my soapstone. Now I could go with a second heat deflector plate, but I'll just show you quickly here the size difference between the soapstone and the heat deflector plates is quite significant. So I think this is going to give me even more coverage. So I'm going to drop that on the second level of my divide and conquer rack using the accessory ring, and then put my cooking grid on top of that where we'll ultimately throw our brisket. Now we have some choices here, left, right, front, back. I picked the back because I found this is the natural air convection flow within a Kamado style grill. That air wants to race towards the back and come up the back side. So I'm hoping by having both of these indirect methods that I'll stop some of that hot air from just racing to the back. And instead what I want is it to hit that flat surface and cascade it out and around the front, so we get a bit of a barrel roll, just like you would in the slow roller configuration, which is going to cook the top of our brisket just as well as the bottom. Plus, this open front end will allow me to drop in a few extra pieces of oak along the way, so they start to warm up and dehydrate, so that the minute that I throw them into the fire when we need more, they'll combust immediately, and then I'll replace them with another 2 or 3 pieces as we're going along. So the brisket that I picked up for today's experiment is smaller than I'm used to cooking. I'm normally in that 17 to 18 pounds. This one was just below 12 pounds. I picked that for 2 reasons. One, if it's a complete waste, I'm not throwing out or wasting even more good brisket, as well as the second advantage is it just being smaller. I was confident that it would fit in a half rack using only one of my cooking grids configuration without spilling over kind of the sides and getting burnt on either end. So that's the size of the brisket that we're going to go with today. And for trimming and seasoning, I'm keeping it really simple. I've already discovered on my double indirect method that what I was missing on a Kamado style grill was putting the fat cap down instead of up like I'm used to off of some of the great offset barbecue joints where you just get that caramelized fat cap, and that is infinitely better than putting it down and just letting it be wasted to the board. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. We're going to trim it to about 1/4 inch so we can go fat cap up. And then for seasoning, I'm going 50-50 salt and pepper, but for salt it's actually split in half. So half will be Diamond Crystal kosher salt and the other half will be Lowry's. I saw this in a couple videos where Chud's Barbecue, I think, shared it in a video a month or 2 back with all Pitmaster secrets, revealed in one video, and it has been a game changer in terms of that flavor profile. So thanks, Chuds, for sharing that. Would have never thought adding Lowry's. In fact, I think I maybe need to do a few tests and reconsider my love affair with Diamond Crystal kosher salt and see if Lowry's is an even better option to go with for dry brining, but that's for another video. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see that, and I will definitely make it happen. But back to today's brisket, I just gave it a quick trim to 1/4 inch and then was able to use that 50-50 salt and pepper with 1/4 Lowry's, 1/4 Diamond Crystal to get a nice even coating on this brisket. Install our meter probe, which I'm using to get us close to our finishing temperature. Plus, I just want to log what's going on with splits and these wood chunks compared to charcoal and see how stable that is. So I got this on the grill this morning just shortly after 8 a.m. So sticking with things that we know are working, I'm going to plan today's cook to use the foil boat method when I hit around 160 degrees, but I'm going to skip using the butcher paper like I did in my double indirect and go back to what I did in the Kamado Joe video of brisket where I just did the foil boat, and that gives that bark just a little bit more time to form up and preserve some of that taste and texture that you just soften a little bit with paper. Sure, paper is better than foil, but for me, especially on a Kamado style grill where you're not getting that top heat, it needs that extra time to really get it to perfection. And so the game plan is to go just as is until about 160 degrees Fahrenheit when we'll put it in the foil boat, and I'm not planning to spritz at all. But after checking how our cook was going and needing to add some wood, which I ended up finding out each chunk of wood, you could almost equate it to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So 2 chunks of wood, you're about 200 degrees Fahrenheit on the grill. 3 chunks of wood, you're at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. 4 chunks of wood, you're at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So I ended up landing on about 3 chunks of wood in order to maintain nice clean combustion around 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was pleasantly surprised every time I checked on the grill. There was next to no smoke coming from these wood splits. Maybe a little bit right on combustion, but within 5-10 seconds it was back to thin blue smoke. And I think preheating them in the charcoal basket before throwing them over is what helped really reduce that time of combustion to get to clean smoke. Now, even though the game plan here was to block all the heat from the back, I noticed about an hour or two in, I was getting a little bit more overdone on the back side than the front side. So I took the opportunity just to flip it to make sure that we're completely even and let this continue to ride for another 4 or 5 hours until I hit 160 degrees Fahrenheit. When I got out my tin foil, made a foil boat and threw it back on the grill. So the foil boat acts a little bit like a sleeping bag. So if you were to go all the way under the sheets, that is wrapping your brisket. If you're gonna go in a sleeping bag, you're still warm, even though you're not completely covered. And so the foil boat acts a little bit like this analogy where it definitely reduces the total cook time. So once we got this in the foil boat, I noticed we started making more progress. And so our total cook time was just over 7 hours from getting it on the grill to later this afternoon. And the foil boat definitely helps accelerate that. I went a little bit earlier today on the foil boat. I've done 165, I think, in the last 2 videos. And so I want to see how 160 does in terms of preserving the bottom as well as getting great bark. Looking at it before we pull it off to wrap it in some more foil and just let that rest for an hour or two, it looks amazing. So you're all caught up to where we are at this exact moment in time. The brisket has now been resting for about 45 minutes. So I'll rejoin you in about another hour from now as we get ready to slice it up and see if running our Kamado Joe like an offset is a good idea, bad idea, or a complete epic fail. Looking and smelling at it though, I think we might be on to something. I can't wait to taste it. I'll see you in just over an hour. Okay, our rest is complete and it is nearly time to dig in for our taste test. But just a quick note as we ended this cook on fuel consumption. So we started, I ordered 2 bags. I didn't know how much we would use of oak smoking wood for today's cook. And we are down to maybe a piece or 2. The rest is just bark. And so at my local store, these oak chunks run about the exact same cost of most of the charcoals that I use, whether it's Fogo, Jealous Devil, or Kamado Joe. They're all in that same sort of premium lump charcoal price. So this is definitely not efficient, since one of those bags would run our Big Joe for over 50 hours, whereas today it was just enough to run our grill at smoking temperatures for a little bit over 7 hours. This is definitely not a way of improving energy efficiency, but you know what? It's a small price to pay if this brisket tastes anything like a proper offset brisket. So let me bring you nice and close. We'll get it out of our foil pouch and start slicing it up and see how we did. Looks so juicy. So slicing this up, it looks and smells amazing. Can't wait to dig in. Let me grab a piece of our flat here. Holding up under its own. Definitely bendy. Let's give that a tug. Completely comes apart. Let's see if it tastes as good as it looks. That is cooked perfectly, but is surprisingly light on smoke, which I can't believe. Visually looking at it, looks amazing. This is a less pronounced smoke ring using all wood versus the double indirect method that I've developed. So we are after smoke ring alone. Already there's a smoke ring, but less pronounced smoke ring than what I'm able to get on the Kettle Joe or the Classic or Big Joe using my double indirect method. So let's save this and try our point end, see how that tastes. Maybe a little bit different over there. Favorite part of the brisket right here. Oh. With butter, that is cooked perfectly. So One thing that's for sure is paying off is all our hard work this year of just trying to improve our brisket game. If this is, you know, just an off day and we're getting brisket like this, it is crazy good and easily surpasses anything that I cooked in the first 10 years. But is it something that rivals our double indirect method, and should we abandon using the slow roller and those heat deflector plates? You know, I don't think so. This is not packing as much smoke flavor as I would have thought, having burned wood splits all day. And I think it comes through in a more pronounced way than you're expecting. It's not as absent as smoke as something off of a pellet grill, or even the Pellet Joe when I've cooked a brisket on that, which tastes more like a pot roast than it does a brisket. This definitely tastes proper brisket, and I think my family is really gonna like it since it's actually not too smoky. But for where I'm used to enjoying brisket, I just want maybe 10-20% more smoke. So I'm gonna definitely stick to the double indirect method, but this was a lot of fun. And if you just have a day where you've got nothing else going on and a weekend you want to hang by your grill, I was adding splits about every 30 minutes. So if you want to stay, you know, in close proximity and manage a fire this way, this is definitely one juicy and tasty brisket and really good on flavor. But I think we could maybe get 20-30% more smoke out of it if we were to stick to what we're used to. I had a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please let YouTube know by smashing that thumbs up button, and let me know by two ways. First, hitting subscribe, and second, consider becoming a member. I've just launched channel memberships, and I'll be doing some exclusive live content with my members monthly and answering your questions for anything that we don't cover in videos like today. Until next time, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue signing off, and remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.